right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday to all joining us, and welcome to Engineering the Markets. My name is Jared, and it is April 28th, 2022. We're nearing the tail end of April, so as we're kind of rounding out this large earnings week, worth taking a look at our earnings plays from yesterday. We'll talk about a couple of standout names that you might want to have on watch for trade today, along with what's up and coming for the rest of the week. Overall, impact to the market has been a bit spotty. Usually, when we see earnings impact the market, you see this, day by day, after hours effects, et cetera, et cetera. And at times, there can be a bit of a theme. For example, a lot of the banking earnings this past season were not necessarily high impact to the markets, both because one, the banking sector is a bit smaller than the tech sector, and two, because a lot of the banks were actually within expected move. So while there were some guidance and future outlook considerations coming from JP Morgan, and the likes of Bank of America response on some of that, probably one of the bigger movers for earnings, the rest of the market as a whole was stable. When it comes to tech, however, and when it comes to what we're seeing this week, lots of moving and shaking. S&Ps are certainly in a very vulnerable position to the downside. We're sitting right on the edge of some relative support. We haven't quite broken down yet, but as you can see, all it would take is one or two companies coming out with a reaction to the downside, and the S&P is very likely to break that support. So as we're monitoring the S&Ps here, absolute low of that 413 pre-market, after hours a couple of sessions ago. We've got a nice counter rally to about 425 currently. That's coming off of some of the response of Meta and the more bullish response that we got from that earnings reaction. So all of this is up for us to kind of take a look at and maybe to review for today. And we'll just go through what we've been doing. We'll look at a couple companies that did report. Some were in line, some were slightly higher. Some actually were bearish. And we'll take a look at those and see how impactful the market has been to those earnings responses. So first and foremost, let's start off with Meta. Meta, keeping in mind that this is a relatively usually have a side section here. I was trying to see, what did I click to remove it? That's okay. I was going to show the market cap of Meta, but basically Meta is a big mover and shaker. If we go to trading terminal, for example, I can type in the ticker name. I can see that the market cap here is, somewhere in the 500 billion relative sizing. So definitely a company with a lot of moving power. And overall, the sentiment going into Meta was a bit bearish. One, because we had stocks like Google coming out the prior session. A lot of their ad revenue numbers were not up to expectation. And that was part of the downside move that we experienced yesterday with Google. We can also talk about XLC. It is the weakest overall sector in regards to large market cap participation and just relative performance this past year. So XLC has been on the decline, and stocks in XLC include companies like Google, but they also include companies like Netflix. And we all know that Netflix took one of the stronger bearish reactions from earnings. So there's a relative outflow of the XLC ETF And this has been seen both more recently, along with some of the selling speed coming into earnings. So everyone was pretty much looking in one direction, but there was some optimism in regards to what we were seeing on the option chain. So let's first take a look at that. Facebook on yesterday's close, I'll just say Facebook. I'm not used to saying Meta as much, but Meta, Facebook closed out at about 175 yesterday. And on yesterday's close, the market was pricing in about a $25 expected move. Now, I'll just show this once again for those new. In order to get this number very easily, take the market close price and just go ahead and grab the at the money straddle, which is a call and a put at 175. The relative price of that straddle should represent approximately the expected move for this series. So for the end of the week, Meta was looking about 25 points. This makes our calculation pretty easy. 200 is to the upside, 150 is to the downside. And then what you're doing at that point is saying, is there anyone really starting to get speculative near those prices? Is that where people are trading? Well, 150 certainly stands out on the put side. We have a lot of open interest sitting there. 150 call side is fully intrinsic. Doesn't necessarily have to stand out. What you're looking more is for the out of the money option open interest to stand out. And then, of course, let's see the other side. Did the call side yesterday have people trading at 200? Absolutely. And even into the close, there was some transactions going through at 200. There's actually more people starting to pile into 200. You pair this with a little bit of an earnings leak that occurred on this stock. You'll notice this spike inside of yesterday's session. And that did sort of surprise a couple of intraday traders, along with providing a little bit of a bearish sentiment going into earnings. So everything was really piled against the stock. But the market overall is based on probability. And we're looking at a probabilistic model when we look at options, talking about the expected move, either to the top side or the downside, 25 points, 200 to 150 with a 175 close. And pretty much what we saw was after hours, the market reacted bullish. We saw a little breakout once we got through the announcement candle, and then we pushed to 200. We actually saw a little bit higher to 210. You'll notice that that was sort of the absolute top. Not necessarily because there was more inventory there, but it was a bit more momentum to the top side. Usually you can hit those targets, you can expand a little bit further. And as you'll notice, we are fading back into that 200 print this morning. So all in all, Meta, the move that it was pricing in this case, from 175, another 25 points represents approximately 1/8 of the market's overall market cap. So the company had potential to move about 1/8 of its total stock price. And yesterday we got a bullish reaction. So what can we see today in regards to this reaction? Well, one thing we might be able to look for is obviously trading Meta. But if it gets close to 200, anticipate some back and forth trade here because it is quite heavy on the option side. It tends to be a value zone. One thing we could also look for is some inflow back into communication stocks. So for example, let's say Meta holds up things like the XLC. We might actually be able to spot and find a relative low inside of both XLC and inside of stocks like Netflix, which so far on the daily side have not even printed a relative low. Every single day has either been continuation or a lean into the first breakdown. And that's of course coming from the earnings low. So, from the daily perspective, there is no bottom on Netflix yet. We could be looking for it today. One, because if Meta holds, the inflow back into XLC will potentially stabilize Netflix. Additionally, what you might also be wanting to look for is, will Google add to some of that upside pressure? In this case, all you're looking for is Google to remain stable inside of its previous earnings candle range. Remember, Google did have about a 200-point expected move. We achieved pretty much all of that on the reaction, 2400 to 2200. And for the most part, Google doesn't necessarily need to move much more than this movement we've seen so far in the stock. I thought it had a little bit of a lower reaction here. Maybe it didn't quite get to that 180, 185. I thought it went a little bit lower. But all in all, same idea for stabilization of this sector. So some other ideas today, we'll just kind of walk through what else reported. Qualcomm, keep it simple here, $10 expected move. We closed at 135. We actually printed 145 on the announcement candle. That was the expected move. We got a little bit higher, and as you can see, we're kind of fading back into these price levels. Looking at the option market side, does 135 stand out? Does have a little bit of higher OI, bit more of a balance zone between 134 and 135. There was a bit higher interest at 140. And then if it was highly bearish, you would have seen, sorry, I'm using the wrong price. 135 was the close. My apologies. I should have been using 125. So 125 stands out if it were bearish. 145 should stand out in regards to the top side. What you'll see here is that yes, both of those numbers stand out. They're higher OI because traders often use these prices based around the expected move. So we saw 125 stand out and then 145 down here. So Qualcomm's interesting. It had a bullish reaction, but it's not exceeding expectations, at least from the option market perspective. It's basically in line, just the fact that it's hitting the top side of its expected move. PayPal. Now this one was pricing in something a bit larger. We had a close of about 82.50. We had an expected move, let's say $11 to $12. We can look at that a little closer by using our technique, just grabbing those at the monies and saying, okay, 11.50. We can kind of take a couple of them if we don't believe the 82s, because we did close at 82.50, about 11.50 for expected move. So that number is pretty accurate. Did PayPal move $11 in its reaction? Not really. It went up to 90. It had a downside move to 80. So as far as the movement for PayPal, it's actually smaller than the expected move. If you had sold the expected move for PayPal, you likely would have made a profitable trade in regards to the earnings reaction. This is fairly typical. Remember that going outside the expected move is a bit rarer than most people think. It's against the standard probability of the option market. So for PayPal to move outside 82 plus 11, that would have been about 94. That would have been a breach of expected move. Do we see people trading in the 94, 95 range? Yes. Had PayPal done something a little bit stronger, there would have been a slight ladder or just enough inventory to move PayPal to potentially that 100 print. And that would have been that psychological price, not necessarily with an expected move. But what you'll also notice here is that there's a standout at 90. And this is important to understand because sometimes based on expected move, you're looking for a width to be achieved, But if the reaction itself is smaller, sometimes this will keep the price locked in. And this is also relatively true at 80. This is where people were trading yesterday. There were some other trades out further, but the largest ones happen to be centered at 90 and 80. So in this case, those were enough to stabilize PayPal's price. And we didn't really see a breach of those levels, nor did we see the expected move get achieved. Now that's one example. Here's a different one, Teledoc. Now, one thing you'll notice here, Teledoc, regardless of the number, we closed at 56. We're trading in the 31s. We'll talk about that in just a second. Outside of that, there's really not a lot of trade occurring at these lower prices. For one, you'll notice that because we closed at 56, we should have seen something in line, similar to what we were seeing with other stocks, around the expected move, about $7.50 to $8. We'll just say from 56, we're looking at 48, and we're also looking at 64. So those numbers should have stood out. Instead, what we're getting is people trading at 61. It's a little bit lower than the expected move. And you'll notice on the put side, there really isn't a standout open interest. Our largest one is approximately 50, but it's not even in the 4 digits yet. So the trading was relatively light. And even worse is this did breach expected move. So what should have been a downside move of approximately 48, that of course breached. We saw that 1 minute candle and that announcement candle come out. 46 to 48 was an area of chop. And then of course the market continued lower. And at that point, it opened up the ability for the stock to move outside of its expected move. Now, you could say this about any other stock too. You know, Meta, for example, could have broken bullish and gone much further. But what's interesting about this one is once you breach the expected move to the downside, there's really not a lot of open interest here until you get to numbers like 40. Until you get to numbers like, I'll just have to keep drawing this up, till you get to numbers like 35. So what's so interesting about this is no one was really trading TDOC close to the expected move. It wasn't similar to the other stocks in that regard. Instead, they were speculating further out. They were hedging and looking at breaches of expected move to put on trade. And at this point, what we're seeing is the stock is actually trading to these levels and actually seeing movements outside of these levels. Now, one last thing about TDOC, just to kind of round out this discussion, if we see movement much further, there's pretty much nothing out here. You know, there's almost no open interest out here. I believe my platform is up to date. You'll see the bid and the ask are not updating. So you do want to confirm this for yourself. But as far as I can tell, pretty much no open interest at these prices. If the market continues down, what it means is there's really not as much of a driver to go lower. For example, Netflix had a lot of open interest at 250, I think even like 225. A lot of traders were actually 2 to 3 standard deviations outside of expected move. And that's what facilitated some of the more volatile downside trade we got in Netflix after earnings. TDOC does not have that characteristic. So if we see more downside today on TDOC, it would have to come in on the volume. So there would have to be trade today facilitating that, as opposed to Netflix, where the open interest was already established in the stock. And therefore, option hedging, dynamic hedging, market maker participation that facilitated downside, even with little to no one coming in and shorting Netflix at open. That it could have been true, but it didn't have to be. The stage was already set for Netflix. So some dynamics to worry about. What you might also see today is because there's nothing really out here, you might see a small return to test these open interest levels. I would say 35 is your conservative. 40 would be a bit optimistic. We'd obviously need to see it reclaim 35. But don't be surprised, even though this is a massive bearish reaction, simply by the option market, the market makers may want to return to 35 and just, transact some of those puts that are already in place. So that's pretty much all I have for today. S&P, slightly higher based on that beat. We are trading above yesterday's range. So from the daily perspective, we do have a very small relative pivot. It is a gap up open. Keep in mind the volatility is quite high right now, but we are trading slightly below 30. So if this can kind of continue to settle out, don't be too surprised if we get a small bid today or small bullish rally today in the S&P, with the understanding that we're trying to hold above yesterday's high. Which got the wrong tool here. So it's not the best looking pivot in the world, but remember, the S&P yesterday was looking downside. We opened and closed at the same price. It's definitely a dragonfly style doji, but the directionality and the momentum was still bearish. Whenever you get a day where, especially on a gap up, you kind of surprise the trade from the previous day, we can get these small inflections and the market can start its pullback. In this case, this would be the beginning of our daily pullback if we start to climb from here. So just keep that in mind for today's trade, and especially for the NASDAQ, which did have that downside breach. So obviously, the trade is looking bearish, but the reaction this morning is we're trading above some of yesterday's trade, right above here. Wrong tool. So some of that trade yesterday, which was inherently bearish based on the momentum, we're trading above it. As long as we can stay above it, we might see a bit of a rally today up into these ranges. And then from there, we really want to be looking at how stocks react today, the likes of Amazon and Apple coming out later for earnings. So that's going to be on deck for tonight, Amazon and Apple. We also have MasterCard reporting this morning. So another great tech company to keep an eye on. So with all that said, we have about 7 more minutes. I'll just look and see if there's any questions. Recommend any website for ideas on stocks which to trade for Zach's Motley Fool Stock Invest, which is best in your opinion? There's not, in my opinion, a lot of good websites, but you can start with some of those that you've already posted. The goal there is they're often going to have differing opinions at times. So you, as an investor, you're saying trade, trade versus invest. If you're looking for trade, I would say stick to the type of analysis that we do each day. Whether you're looking at sectors, whether you're looking at what's hot and what's not, sort of hype around the market, where's everybody kind of focused in, that's for trade. For investing, you probably need to look a little deeper. You need to look at the company itself and obviously look at some fundamental aspects. And usually for investing, I'm talking 5, 10, 20 plus years. So, pricing today seems dire, seems dramatic, seems bearish overall. But when I pull up weekly charts. These are moments in time that are behind us. So an investor is looking for these moments in time to pick up companies that they want to hold for a long period of time. Let's see, which charting platform am I using? I'm using Thinkorswim with TD Ameritrade. Let's see. Signed on short put options on Twilio and lost 30K. Ooh. Let's see. I'm not going to look at tickers right now. I'm just looking at questions. I don't have enough time to review tickers, unfortunately. I'm all out of my nat gas. I'm mostly out. Keep in mind, I've been holding nat gas for a long time. So whenever Warren Buffett discussed his position inside of Dominion's assets, that's when I started my position. So it's been a while. Relative. I'm talking maybe a year, but these levels right now are a bit extreme. So I'm definitely unwinding. Automated expected move, you'd have to have the study. So it's not a built-in study. You'd have to look online for someone who's posted a Thinkorswim study and bring it into your platform for automated expected move. Do you think oil and gas is hot today? We can look at that. So nat gas had a bounce here. Swing high bounce. It's also the 20 period. First time we're checking back in with the 20 period on the daily since the parabolic top. Usually when I see these moves, I don't think continuation. What I think is consolidation. So usually this area is going to become a relative top. It's going to become a lower high. And for an example of that, I think nat gas is going to look like crude right here. Parabolic top, pullback. This is actually a deeper pullback. It didn't stop at the 20. A bounce, retest. So will it look exactly like this? Not necessarily, but I don't think nat gas goes straight up from here. Simply because it's not what markets tend to do. It's a lower probability event. So it's a bounce, but I don't think it's the one that's going to shoot us up past 8. It probably needs to consolidate longer. So let's see. Can you switch to dark mode? Sharing with us which ticker you're going to trade today. I don't know the ticker I'm going to trade today, Rosie. That's part of the pre-market prep. So I don't know the ticker because not enough time has passed, and I haven't done the work to identify it. Thinkorswim as a cam pivot, yes. So type in Camarilla, apply it, go to the SPY, drop it down to 5 minutes. For this study, you're going to want to configure to length of 1 and apply it. That'll get you your dailies. It is not configurable for pre and post market data. So it doesn't have that select box to turn it on and off. So you get what you get with this study. But it is cams, and they are equivalent to the ones that are configured for DOS. You just don't have the option to turn on and off pre and post. And the only other thing about it is you are not seeing R1 and R2 by default. You can turn it on. They're off by default. So know which line you're looking at. You might want to color them differently, if you're going to use it. And yeah, it should be similar. Thanks, Rosie. I'm not sure about that 8K. I'd have to look at that a little bit further. So, all right. Well, I think we're all set. Stay tuned for pre-market prep. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Trade safe and stay prepared for Apple and Amazon this after hours. Otherwise, we're kind of making it through the thick of earnings. And next week, we'll kind of look at some other opportunities. But until then, talk to y'all later. And yeah, see you then.
All right, good morning, guys. Welcome to Pre-Market Prep. Hope you guys are having an amazing morning. Hope you guys had a great day yesterday. Good morning, Peter. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Carlos. I am now fantastic.
I'm
With
so
that
glad to hear
intro,
that.
that's awesome. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Well, I know. Listen, if you guys don't know, if you're on YouTube, you probably haven't been to one of our Peter's webinars. Peter does not start any webinar without any sort of music, tunes, or vibe. The guy is in his previous life, he definitely was a DJ. There's no question. And the music selection, by the way, is the spectrum is very wide, which I love it. Um, so hope you're doing well. Thank you for covering for Norm. Norm is off today, and I believe on Friday. Today's Wednesday, right? Today's Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah, so he's off the next 2 days. So taking some time there. Um, let's get to it, guys. Let's take a look at our gappers list this morning. We have a couple of things in the green, which is nice to see. Some of these have been beat up quite a bit, so they're getting some relief, as we can see here. Facebook being one of them. I mean, this if you look at Facebook daily, it's just been destroyed, and we're seeing some good stuff there. I'm assuming Pins probably has earning. I'm not sure. I'm only saying that because we haven't seen them pop up in a while. Well, I see
Yep.
Snap here as well. Snap is on deck. PayPal. Oh, we got a couple of really good names. Nvidia. Oh man, AMD, Tesla. Yes, this is the first time looking at this list, so I am. Yeah, I'm happy with these names. Apple. Does Apple report today or
After the
tomorrow?
close today.
Ah, okay, today. Excellent. All right, so that should be fun as well. Um, Stuff we had on deck yesterday. Let's start here with Apple, guys. We had such an incredible day yesterday. Just a lot of movement, a lot of volatility, which is great for us. Let's take a look at Apple's action. I didn't pay too much attention on a lot of tickers because BA had my attention. If you guys were watching BA yesterday, it was just incredible. We'll look at that shortly. Here's Apple, nice little pop. And looks like it's just that's a deep drop all the way down towards the lows of the day, and then trying to get back up towards the high. So this is a very wide range. A little bit difficult to trade because you're not getting the continuation unless you're getting in at the lows and the highs for the opposite directions, and that's tough to do because if you're up here, you're thinking this is going to be strong. It's not easy trading when a stock is doing this, right? Possibly some scalping opportunities, but not the easiest thing in the world. Um, Microsoft, similar story here as well. It was very strong at the open, and I think they had decent earnings. They've been strong for a couple of days here, so not bad there. BA was the one I was fully in tuned in. I mean, just look at this drop here, guys. They got crushed on earnings yesterday morning, and they had a bad day before that. And just look at the action yesterday. It's just this huge drop. This was my trade here on the breakout of the 158. That's the pre-market low. So very, very clean trade there. If you waited for the 5-minute open range breakdown, that could have been a little bit tougher to trade. This is why, Peter, we've been talking about these strategies. There's some strategies that work very well in certain market conditions. The 5-minute in this market condition can be tough. Things get very extended pretty quickly, so just be careful with that one. But look at this beautiful drop. I got all out here, and some of us did in the chat room as well. And then the price action says we're not done with the action. And look at this drop down to 146. Beautiful reversal there. Just insane how that traded. Here is Facebook. Facebook a little bit sideways action yesterday as well. So nothing great. Big drop towards the end of the day. That was fun. Netflix again pop and then sells off and continues. We'll look at the daily on this one because it will be in play today. They're on our gappers list. Man, they're just continuing to sell off. It's just I don't think they put in a green day just yet, unless they did yesterday. And then Tesla has been a lot of fun, guys. A lot of action. Brian took this one a couple of times yesterday, I believe, or maybe I'm confusing it with the day before. But this has been fun to trade here. So I think he called 900 if I remember on this one. So a lot going on, guys. Roku as well was in our deck, but I took it off. You guys remember I had this one as a possible, and glad I took it off because it just did nothing. Look at this here. So no, nothing fun there. Peter, what's the latest and greatest on the overall market today? And those messages, by the way, on the side might not be updated.
Yeah, those aren't quite accurate. So we'll talk about that in a second. But we are in the heart of earnings season. So welcome to Earnings Palooza, everyone. We have tons of things that are going to be hitting our gappers because of the earnings reports up or down, or in the case of Twitter, all around. Nobody knows what the heck's going on with that thing. But anyways, we'll come back to that. Overall market news today, being Thursday, we have jobless claims, which have just come out. The initial jobless claims hit right on the target number, and it looks like we're right on target with the continuing jobless claims as well. So that leaves no surprise for the market. We should also, actually, no, it looks like they're out. Gross domestic product, it was out. The number was a lot lower than expected. So I don't know that that's going to have a big impact compared to all these earnings. So a little bit of economic news this morning. I think what's dominating the headlines still, of course, is the ongoing conflict in Ukraine and the effect it's having across, especially the European Union. Less effect directly in the U.S., but indirectly, of course, the macroeconomic waves continue to wash over us. So we'll see what happens. I think today there is just going to be a ton of stuff to look at. So let's take a look at some of the specifics based on our gappers list.
Yeah, I cannot agree with you more. There's just a whole lot going on. So we'll see how it plays out. All right, let's take a look at our gappers list this morning, guys. We're going to hop in here and let me resize this to not block our gappers list. Get that out the way. And then we are going to remove the stuff we have on deck, and we'll get started here. Just 1 second. Something kind of resized on me. I'm trying to put it back to the way it goes. There it is. Okay, excellent. Let's remove this. Control A, Control X. Okay, it worked this time. So if you guys been watching the last couple of days, I've been having issue getting that command in, but that turned out well there. All right, let's start with what's gapping up today. Facebook leading the way, guys, up 14%. Peter, what's the news on Facebook today?
So they had earnings last night, which made them a good after-hours play. By the way, if you like trading earnings, you can go into Ed's chat room, and Ed is always trading earnings on a number of offerings. But Facebook had earnings. They beat their numbers, and they actually showed user growth overall for the first time in a little while. So that's why they're gapping up so much this morning.
Yeah, they're doing a pretty good here. Nice big gap for them, which I'm sure they're happy about because if you look at this daily,
Hmm.
it just has not been great. We have pins on deck as well. Pins is another one that I assume earnings because we never see pins unless there's kind of earnings or some kind of catalyst on our list.
Yeah,
So
it's one of those that you trade 4 times a year, right, when the earnings come out. So,
yeah,
yeah, they
yeah.
also had earnings last night. A little bit I'm surprised that they're up this much. They beat their numbers, but they did cut their guidance a little bit. Usually the forward-looking guidance, creates a drag on the stock price. So we'll see what happens today with it, but, so some sort of mixed news across, Pinterest.
Yeah. Not looking too good right now on it. It could use more volume, so hopefully at the market open it will get it. Pinterest is funky, man. I know it can trade well at times, but we'll see. We'll see. Uh, Qcom here this morning. They are up 6.8 right now, 484,000 shares traded. So not looking too bad this morning. As far as that, that's actually decent volume for them. They don't trade a whole lot in the pre-market. This is earnings as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
earnings
earnings last
again
night.
beat their numbers, and in this case, they also raised their guidance, provided some pretty positive forward-looking comments. So, Qualcomm is not always a huge mover, but when it's gapping up this much, you pay attention because
Mhm.
it's again one of those trade 4 time a year type stocks, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed. Qcom, I'm gonna put them as a possible as well. Actually, you know what? No, they look good today. Today might be the day that they actually stay on our main list. DT here, they are not doing anything. We'll move on to Love. And let me go back because someone asked what makes it. Yesterday, I forgot the name of the person on YouTube. They asked what makes a stock a no, 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 no. Well, this is a no, 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 no here. And here's what we're looking for, guys. For those that are new or any members that have joined us or YouTube, we're looking for volume is probably one of the biggest things, right? Actually, no, I take that back. It's the gap up or gap down in the catalyst, right? That's probably the biggest thing at first because there are some stocks, especially in the New York Stock Exchange, that will have a nice gap up, gap down. They will have a great catalyst, and they won't have the volume because the New York Stock Exchange tickers they tend not to get great volume in the pre-market. Some of them, Roku is one of them. That you kind of see that on. I don't know if they're in the New York Stock Exchange, but similar stock. And then we look for that. We look for the catalyst and the gap up. Then we're looking for a good pre-market activity, some volume that's actually trading well, not just 1.7 million shares traded in one candle, right? That that's not going to be good. And the next thing we like to see, if we can get it, is a good daily. And the reason for the good daily is that it's going to provide some good opportunities for finding levels that make sense, right? And what do we mean by that? Let's take a look at MT. We got time because we usually have room for questions and answers. So MT is not a go. I'm trying to think of a go one. KO. That KO is actually decent. Can't think of one right now. BHP. BHP, prior to this madness, look at BHP, how gappy it is every single day, right? Typically because they're a foreign stock. So usually when you have that, the levels are not great. They're all over the place. They're not as clean. And we'll use one of my friend's favorite here, AMD. Look how clean these levels are. Like, you clearly tell, okay, there's a level right over here at 118, right? I mean, just look at the area of resistance on these 3 days, and we'll zoom in just a little bit as we're talking about this, because it's an important point, and it's going to help us later when we're doing levels. Look at the resistance there that later becomes support. All right, what a great level there at 118. And then a few months later, right, February, March, April, guess what? We're dancing around with this level again, using that as support and resistance. So when you have a clean daily, finding those levels become a lot easier than when you have something that's not as clean, right? Again, not needed. There are some stocks that don't have a clean daily and still can do very well. But for the most part, you want to have that if you can get it. If you have to make decisions, if you have tons of stocks, and that's one of the filters you can use to eliminate some stuff that doesn't look great, right? Peter, did I miss anything there?
Nope. Good
Okay.
summary.
Cool. So DT, no, 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 no. And also if they're very risky, we don't want to see anything that looks risky and too crazy. So that's not good for today. Here is Love. Love is up 4%. It is 152,000 shares traded. Not great volume. And out of all the airlines, I think Love, JetBlue, there's a few that don't trade very well. Like JetBlue barely gets volume. I don't see American Airlines here. I don't see Delta, and I don't see United. Those I think are three of the top four airlines, and they're not here. So not sure what's pushing Love up this morning, but it's not looking
So
great.
Yeah, once again, it's earnings. Like all of the airlines this quarter, they had some good numbers. Love just reported this morning they beat their numbers. So, there might be some movement on it, but that's sort of like everybody expected that already because they're one of the late airlines to announce. And like you were just talking, Carlos, earlier we saw American Airlines and Delta, they moved early. So it's a little bit late. The only news in the airline sector, and we won't find it on the gappers list this morning because it's got no volume, but Spirit Airlines, SAVE, they actually delayed their earnings. Their earnings were supposed to be last night, I think,
Hmm.
or maybe it was I think it was yesterday. Anyways, but they did not release their earnings, and it's been delayed. So that's always a warning sign when a company has to delay their earnings that they're having to go relook at the books. I don't know whether that's going to result in price action. Save is not normally a good trader, but if you like the sector, just be aware that's what's happening.
Yeah, and I know this is Spirit, right? Yeah, so I know they're
Yeah.
they're they're up for sale. They're actively looking to get merged, right? I forgot it's like two airlines are possibly looking into them.
Yeah, they had a
Um,
couple of suitors, and
right?
that's sort of gone quiet. So I don't know what
Yeah,
that means, but that's sitting out in the wings, and maybe that's why they've delayed their numbers because there could be a lot of with suitors, you got to sort of report a little differently. They could be asking for different information to make the acquisition. So all of that could be a conflict that has nothing to do with their actual earnings, but whatever's happening, there seems to be some background action.
yeah, that makes sense. So, not looking too good right now. Those two guys, we'll keep them off the list for now. If you see something, say something. But right now, we'll keep them off the list there. And Rossilla, yeah, the Mike Tyson stuff is just insane. I mean, why? Have you guys seen the video of Mike Tyson beating up the passenger behind him? So there's this
I did.
guy.
I've heard of it. He turns around and clocks
Oh,
the guy,
and
doesn't he?
clocks the guy like me. Out of all people, you want to pick a Mike Tyson, even at 55, whatever his age is, he's still a
Yeah.
very scary guy to mess with. You don't want to do that. Um, all right, so here is Snap. Snap this morning, very light on volume, although they're gapping up 4.2. Do they have news? Is it worth putting on the list this morning?
I
Um,
couldn't find any specific news on Snap, so I'm not sure if anyone has it out there. Let us know. But yeah, I mean, it looks like earnings, but I don't think they have earnings this morning, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, so I'm not putting them on there, guys. Let's take a look at XBEV here. Nothing exciting. I'm gonna move down, see if we find something that actually looks pretty decent. Some Chinese stocks making their way in here. We saw that a couple of days ago as well, where they were gapping up or down, but just no volume. And I don't think they did anything spectacular that day neither. So I'm seeing the same thing here. I'm not too excited about that. Let's get to some good names. PayPal. PayPal is up 3% right now, 389,000. So that's good. I like PayPal today. So we'll keep that one on deck. Here is Lee, no good. Man, so many in the gappers list today. CZR, no bueno, guys. Look at this. Just you got volume here, but you don't have any type of pre-market activity. Looks pretty crappy for the most part. Roblox on deck. Roblox, man, we have a lot of stuff that's just up like that 2%, but just really no volume at all. Is probably because the SPY is up, maybe, with some heavy volume to the market, right? But that's the only thing I could think of. Things are getting a little bit of a bounce because they were down so much yesterday in the last couple of days. I can't see no other reason why some of these are on here. AMD looks good, guys. 527, and we gotta have AMD on if we have Peter on. There's no that those two go hand in hand. On PLTR, Lucid, yes, a lot of stuff on here that's not looking great. So Neo. Neo had one day here that was really good. You guys took some really good trades on this. All right, we'll stop here. CCL maybe. No, I don't think it's really in play. Again, a lot of stuff in that,
No.
and anything here below this is 3% is questionable. It's just not really in play right now, and even
Yeah, I
Nvidia,
mean,
yeah,
we have to keep in mind that the market overall is gapping up already
yeah.
like over 1%. And whenever the market gaps, you get a bunch of stuff that tends to move more gap as well. So it's just sort of, sympathy with market direction.
Yeah, yep, agree. All right, Peter, anything? Oh, hold on, gap down list. Let's see if we have anything here. We
Yeah, we
got
got the
we
whole
got
down list.
T-Doc. Whoa, my. We are down 44%. Who screwed up? Who's getting fired here? What is going on? Let me look at my little oracle that I have here. Unless you have the news, Peter. Oh,
So
earnings.
Doc is another one of these healthcare stocks. In this case, they issued a sales warning. You may not be surprised, but this is another Kathy Wood invested stock. So
Hmm.
it's once again,
She's
she's
not getting a
not doing
break.
too well on some of these bets.
Yeah, yeah. She is not getting a break. T-Doc in play, guys. Usually not a great trader. Very light on volume, right? If you come down here, this is something we look at as well, the daily volume, right? If you look at it, you're trading less than 5 million in most cases. So here, even when you have a nice move here from 52 guys to 60, you did it with about 5 million shares. Typically, that translates to not a great pre-market activity. But today, these guys are in play, guys. 2.6 million already. That's half of their daily average volume in the pre-market
Exactly.
already. So that should tell you, okay, that this is going to be hopefully a going for today. So T-Doc definitely on the list, leading the way here, down 43%. Man. FLWS this morning, we are down 30%, but this is a nasty 30%. This is not great pre-market activity, no volume. Oh, look at the daily. See, I'm talking about horrible daily. This is a horrible daily right here, guys. This is a no, no, no. I mean, just look at under 1.2 million shares traded for the most part. I don't see how this could be great today. Let's move
Yeah.
on down to
Yeah. This
BTU.
is
hmm
they had earnings, by the way, in case anybody's interested, but I agree. Like, this is not a good trader. Flowers.com, 1-800
hmm
flowers.com is what this is. And
Oh,
yeah,
that's what that is. Okay,
yeah.
okay. Um,
So, but missed their numbers, not looking good. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's not a good day trader.
Have you guys, and a little off topic, but we got a time here. It is Thursday, close to 5, so we could pull stuff like this off. Have you guys seen that radio show where it's called is it Thorns of something? Roses of Thorns? I forget what it is. But the whole point of the radio show is that they call someone, right? Like let's say if you think your spouse is cheating on you, you call this show up and they call your wife as a flower company and they ask her, hey, do you want to send us flowers to someone special? And a lot of people don't pick their spouse or their boyfriend or girlfriend. They'll send somebody else, and the other person's on the line. It is hilarious. It's just like
That
it is the
sounds
funniest thing. It's the
sounds
funniest thing
very
ever.
very nasty show.
Oh, it is not fun. It's I mean I hate to be I'm cringing when I'm hearing this stuff. I'm like, oh, that sucks. Some of them work out pretty good, and then you get free flowers. A great advertising for the flowering company. But yeah, flowers. I mean, uh, I never had a good experience with delivering flowers. It's just they don't seem to get there in good shape. But
Yeah,
down
it's a
30%,
trap.
guys. What was that?
It's a trap.
Yeah, yeah. So this is no good here, guys. Yeah, we'll skip on that one. BTU, I never like BTU. I think it can War of Roses. Yes, Jonathan over in YouTube. That's the name here in the U in New York City. So when I was commuting to work, that came on, and sometimes I'll get to work and I just sit in the parking lot to wait and see what happens. Good times. All right, BTU here, guys. This one down 18%. I don't like it as much, but man, they have good volume today. 1.6 million. Typically not a great trader. Peter, what do you think about this one this morning?
Brian has traded this a couple of times, and I know he's interested in it because it's a energy company. I don't. I've never traded it, so I've never really looked at it. It's not one
Yeah.
that I like. If I'm going to trade that, that industry, there's sort of more market indices what am I trying to say? Sector uh, plays that I would take instead of this.
Yeah, yep, agreed. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it, guys. I mean, we'll put it as a possible. I do like the drop today. I do like the volume. Can that continue into the market open? Hey, look at this. Nut X made it to the list again, but not in a good sense now. They are gapping down 3.6, 152,000. This is, for me, the fun is over on this. I don't think anything
Yeah.
good can come out of this here. So, not even going to look at that, guys. CMCSA. This is another one that's been on our list quite a bit. And I don't think I ever traded it. I just don't like the way the price action moves on it. I don't like the spread at times. It's one of these stocks that, you have these tickers that you look at them and you're like, you know what, I'm going to lose money in this ticker. This is one of them for me. I look at it, I'm like, my money is shrinking. So I'm not a fan of this one. Have you traded this,
Yeah.
Peter?
No, I have in years past, but it literally has been years. If I'm going to trade the sector, I tend to go to like T or TMUS or
Yeah.
something else. But they did have earnings, a little bit of a mixed number, and they actually beat their numbers in the earnings, but their broadband sales were down, which I think is why it's sort of on the gap down list. But once again, interesting, but not interesting enough to make me put it on my list. There's so many other good things today. I'm not going to mess with this one.
Yep, I agree. We'll move down, guys. ATER. This is the one that's been making some noise here. Hasn't been great though, and the volume is not as exciting anymore as these couple of days here. Look how much it has dropped. So not as significant. I don't think they'll be in play today. So we'll move down to E, Q, and R. We saw this yesterday. I took it off the list. I didn't keep it. How did it actually trade? Let's take a look here. Oh, look at that. Just look at this. You could trade anything else, guys, but you could definitely could avoid this one. Look at the pop here from what 34 something back right back down. It just looks nasty, and not looking any better. Horrible daily, by the way. Another example of a very bad daily stock here. Is it foreign? It might be foreign the way it's gapping up and down here. Um, let's take a look at Peter. What do you have on your end this morning?
It is EQNR. It's a Norway-based company. All right. Well, once again, we got tons of earnings. So a couple that just haven't made the gappers list so far. LVS, Las Vegas Sands, they actually missed their numbers. So that's one that they're actually gapping up, I think, last I looked, just
Mm-hmm.
slightly this morning. But the numbers weren't good on that. So sometimes that can be in play. So it might be worth taking a look at. Others that still waiting for earnings on MasterCard, MA. Actually, no, they're out now. So they beat their numbers on MasterCard. Caterpillar, CAT. McDonald's, MCD. Merck, MRK. They all have earnings. They all beat their numbers. Again, these are ones that, if you like to play those types of stocks, they're out there, but they're not as active traders. Like McDonald's maybe, but I find them a little tougher to trade. And I can't
Yeah,
leave
yeah.
the show in this section without talking about Twitter. Twitter is
Yes.
just, it's all over the place. We all know that Elon's got his consortium together. He's put the money together to buy it out at 54.20, and since then he has been tweeting like a madman about all sorts of stuff. We'll come back to that in a second. He's fired the board of directors. The staff are threatening to walk out on everything. There's legal action still happening in certain countries in the UK. There's of course his talk about free speech and what that's going to do, eliminating ad revenues, which management is saying the opposite. No, 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 we're going to keep the revenues. Bottom line, we're watching Twitter like it is. I find it like it just doesn't know what to do, right? Because
Yeah, yeah.
investors have no idea what to do with this thing at this point. So, if you like if you're a scalper, Twitter might be fantastic. But if you're looking for trend trading, I think it's going to continue to be tough.
I agree. It's been all over the place, and again, just some of the uncertainties and the madness of some of the tweets that our friend Elon is sending. We'll look at that after we're done with a couple of things here. Yeah, I agree with you there. I think it's worth having. Who know? I mean, we're all kind of waiting for this to do something, but it's just moving sideways, you know. So
Yeah, yeah.
TWTR. We'll put that on
So
there.
on that last night, it was interesting. The early talk was that maybe Coca-Cola would be in play because of Elon. He's busy tweeting saying next target he's going to buy Coca-Cola and put the cocaine back in.
Yeah.
He feels like, I don't know if any parents out there, have little kids and they find something that makes the adults laugh and they just keep doing it over and over and over again because they found something. I feel like Elon's gotten that mode where he's just now he's gotten high on the attention and he's just making stuff up now.
It
So
it is
um,
hilarious.
well, right. So, but then he actually, I thought this actually was a, a bright move if he did it on purpose, which is then he tweeted about McDonald's and said, okay, next, then I'll buy McDonald's and I'll fix the ice cream, which, is sort of shows some awareness because that's been a thing that's been, sort of a problem for a couple of years. But
Yeah,
it
yeah.
actually, it's softened his statement on Coca-Cola, which frankly makes it less likely to be in play because the more of these things you make, the less people pay attention to them. So I think that that's going to sort of fall aside. But yeah, he is just he is going crazy, right? Like
He
just all
is like
sorts
a
of.
kid on a candy store, man, with a new toy, whatever you want to call it. He is having a blast, and it's entertaining. And you know what? You have to have a sense of humor. I think he has a very dry one. But
Yeah.
I mean, you can't take this a lot of his stuff serious. Except Twitter was pretty serious. But I mean, you got some of the comments that you see from people there are like, okay, come on, get over yourself a little bit here. It's not that serious, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been entertaining, that's for sure. All right, let's take a look at over at our chat room, guys. What do you guys like this morning? Let's start here with Chris, who gave us Tesla, and a couple of people gave us BA. We'll look at that as well. Tesla this morning, yeah, I think Tesla's going to be a whole lot of fun, guys. Look at this dropping from 1,000 to 800. Maybe not as in play as it's been in the last couple of days, but I'll put it as a possible. I do like BA's action yesterday,
Tesla.
guys. Yeah.
Brief comment on Tesla.
Mhm.
I'm actually worried about Tesla overall because we joke about Elon and all this stuff, but this is the point at which we have seen such activity in the EV market, and a lot of these EV companies are coming online. We saw Lucid with a big announcement about a number of vehicles. When was that? Was that yesterday? I think, where Saudi Arabia is going to be buying 100,000 cars, and then Ford is ramping up production on their F-150. So the competition is ramping up right at the time at which Elon is completely distracted and doing other things. Like,
Yeah.
he's kept that company running by cracking the whip and beating his employees mercilessly to get to the numbers and to achieve their targets. What
Mhm.
happens when that focus wanes? So
Yeah.
I think that it might be worth paying attention to long term to see what happens. But yeah, it's an interesting time, I think, for Tesla, and I think they're going to struggle a little bit more because they had the leading. When you were leading by a couple of years, it was sort of easy for everybody to be excited and to put all of their focus on it. Now there's so many other places to focus, and that competition, like we said, is ramping up. So let's see what happens. But for day trading, it doesn't mean
Mhm.
anything's going to happen today.
Yeah, yeah, I agree 100%. Just love this drop here, guys. We'll see how that's going to play out in the next couple of days. Might not be today or tomorrow, but I think it'll be a good one to keep watching, which it has been. It has given us a good opportunities here and there. Let's take a look at BA. I saw that earlier in chat here. BA for a second. Man, the drop on this yesterday was just wild. Right
Yeah, you
now,
mentioned that
yeah, yeah.
yesterday, and it really had actually, I found the moves really hard to take because I'm a reversal
Mhm.
trader, but the reversals were so sharp.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it reversed, well, as you said at the open,
Couldn't
it
give you an
just went
opportunity.
down, reversed
Yep.
at the bottom, like on a dime, went back up, recovered like two-thirds of it, and then almost like reversed again right away. Like, it was sort of very hard to read.
It was very difficult. And again, I thought I had an incredible trade breaking out of the pre-market lows here. I'm like, wow, I have an amazing trade. It was more like over here, I think, to here maybe, or here. I forget. I put it up on Twitter. But either way, I'll have an amazing trade, and then it does this and makes my trade look so small. And I'm like, okay, it's not that amazing, Carlos.
Isn't that
Relax.
suck how you can have a trade that you're very happy with and you're excited and you get out, and then it like doubles the move after you get out, and what you were happy with a minute ago, you know, now you're unhappy with, but the actual trade hasn't changed. It's
Right,
amazing the
right.
psychology how it can play with your head, right?
Yep, I agree. And I mentioned on Twitter, if I would have stayed in, it probably would have reversed on me and got out of break even. So it's just the way it works. So BA for
Mm.
second day play here, guys. It will be interesting. I'm not sure. I think as a secondary, at least maybe. Um, but it did such a big bounce yesterday. I think we might just go sideways here. If it would have ended here or anywhere below 150, I think we would have had a better opportunity for either a bounce play or a further drop if we're going to continue to be this weak. But that's the fact that it recovered so much yesterday. I mean, half of the day's loss there. I think it'll be a tough one today, but we'll have to see. All right, I see Apple. Yes, Apple has volume. Let's take a look here. Ooh, 6.7 million.
Yeah,
Um,
it's getting a lot of
oh,
volume this morning. So
yeah. Not crazy pre-market action, right? We're still within a range, but 6.7. So there's a lot of shares being pushed around. I think it'll be worth watching going into their earnings tonight. We'll see if that could play very well. For sure, it's going to be in play tomorrow. Cannot wait to look at their earnings. But definitely worth watching there. Okay, what else did I miss, guys? BTU is no good. BA. Okay, IDAI. This is what is low
I feel
flow.
like
What we got?
we're running behind a little bit now. We got to,
Yeah, you know what? We might not just have room for Q&A like we usually have towards the end, but yeah, we'll catch up on some time in a second here. ADAI, no good here, guys. I don't like that one. We got a pretty decent list so far, so I am gonna stop here. And if we have time at the end, we can always go across some stuff. Let's take some stuff here on MU. Raul, you're giving us MU there. Let's take no volume right now. Actually, volume, just not a great pre-market activity. You got 816,000. That must be a couple of block trades that are not being registered here. So I don't think they're really in play. I don't see earnings from them on the list here neither. Right? No. Earnings will be tomorrow. So tomorrow after hours on a Friday, not the best time for earnings, right? But we'll see how
After
that's going to play out. Yeah, it says post-market, right? The 29th. That's weird.
really?
Usually, is that right?
Yeah, I don't
Usually
usually.
stocks.
Yeah, they don't have earnings after hours on a Friday normally.
Yeah, especially big ones, big companies like that one. So that's strange. It's trying to hide something. Trying to hide something.
Try to hide some-
Nobody's gonna be around to trade that. Everybody's starting their weekend. Microsoft for a second day play. Maybe we'll see. Possible. Um, TDOC. Yeah, TDOC is in play for sure. We have that one. And Tesla, we have it in place. Last one, VAEL. We are not liking this one so much today. Nothing going on at the moment. We have better ones in our main list that look pretty good. Okay, let's get to our announcements for the following week on what's coming up, and we'll come back and fine tune this list.
All right, so we'll go quickly through this as we're running short of time. But as always, we got lots of stuff coming up next week. Next week, Kyle is going to be doing on. So Monday is always about technology. So we have our onboarding session that always happens on Monday, followed by a technology webinar. We're going to be talking about DAS, the new beta release. A lot of actually cool features coming out in DAS. So Kyle will be talking us through that. God, I can't believe it's May next week. Anyways, I
Wild.
better get over it.
Wild.
I know the days keep on moving. Anyways, Tuesdays always about strategy and our trade book activities. So Artie is going to be presenting on implied volatility. So if you've never been to one of Artie's webinars, always extraordinarily informative. He's very well prepared with good materials. So it'd be a great opportunity to ask questions on anything. He's very good at sort of picking up on those and answering them. That's at 8 o'clock next Tuesday, May the 3rd. Wednesday, then, is psychology, and we will have Dr. Kenneth Reed back with us talking about the humble trend line. So he is an active trader himself, and his insight is always good because he not only talks from a theoretical point of view, how you need to manage your psychology and what you need to do, but he usually talks about it through the lens of active trading signals and strategies because, again, he himself is an active trader. So it's a great session. That'll be at 8 o'clock next Wednesday, May the 4th. Thursdays, which is today, are all about mentorship. And we have a number of mentorship sessions that happen on Thursday, starting with 11 o'clock, where Andrew gives a mentorship session. Now, I'm not sure if Andrew's doing it today or if John is stepping in, but one way or the other, we should have one at 11 o'clock for all of our elite members in the webinar room. After hours, we then start with Ed right at the close where he does his mentorship. He'll probably be talking about after hours earnings and some of his approaches there because I'm sure there's things he wants to watch. We have actually a number of earnings after the close again today, including Apple and Amazon and Roku and Intel and all sorts of others. So join Ed for that at 4. And then I can't go without mentioning Carlos, of course, who's sitting in for Thor tonight, right, Carlos?
Yes, I am.
There you go. So 8 o'clock in the webinar room, Carlos will be sitting in for Thor, giving some mentorship and answering all the questions you may have. So hopefully you'll join Carlos there tonight. As always, we want to remind you of the fact that we not only have our paid chat room, which is extremely valuable, but we got free stuff. Sign up for the stock trading simulator. It is completely free. There's no obligation. We will not start hounding you to join any paid services or anything like that. We promise. We just get you sign up so you can so we can get your settings set, frankly, and then you can do some configuration within the tool. But it is completely free. It's something that Andrew's developed because he saw a gap in the market and really wanted to provide this tool. So please feel free to go to stocktradingsimulator.com and sign up for that. And you can also get some suggestions as to what to look at, what to trade. That gets put together every week by our good buddy Eamon. And if you do want to join us in the room, as always, we'll remind you that we have two ways to join primarily. First is just on a trial membership, where you can join us for a week, take a look, see if the room's for you. I think you'll find a lot of value in it. We have great members, very helpful, as well as, of course, all the stock callouts, the active, so many eyes looking at the market with you. I get a lot of the things that I trade from what people call out in the room. So check it out. Premarket24 is the code to get a $24 1-week trial. And then if you do want to join us, you can use the code SPRING50 to get 50% off our annual elite membership. All right. So with that, we have got some levels to set.
All right. Thank you very much, Peter. Guys, let's get to it. Our list right now, Facebook looking very nice. Love the pre-market activity. The volume is great. We're gapping up. Good news. Just all around a great ticker to have on your list this morning. Best one so far right now that is in play. We have Qualcomm here, which again, typically they don't trade very well, but I do like today's pre-market activity. I like the volume. I like the gap up. I like the catalyst on it. Just everything looking good so far this morning. PayPal's not looking great yet. I do like the daily here. We're getting a little bit of a bounce off 82.50. Maybe that could turn into something. I think this is more of a possible. But we'll give it a shot here. AMD's looking okay, guys. Not great. It still hasn't done anything too exciting at the moment. They are up 2.5, 607. This one and Apple, right? Well, Apple maybe not today because Apple's got its own thing going on at the moment, preparing for earnings tonight. But AMD, Nvidia is another one too. If the market decides to trend heavily in one direction, these are just great tickers to keep an eye on. They're gonna, if they don't have any individual catalysts, which I believe they do not, they are going to be following whatever the Qs and the SPY is doing. And by the way, correction, MU is in March. I looked at this and completely dismissed March there, and it just looked at the 29th. So yeah, this is not doing earnings tomorrow. That would have been very, very weird. So correction there. So we'll have AMD here. We have Teledoc as well, which again, huge drop on Teledoc, guys, 43%. We'll keep an eye on that. And then we have Apple, as I mentioned, with some good volume. Secondary list, is there anything that is worth moving up? Maybe Twitter later, we'll see. BTU, no, I don't see anything that's looking crazy. Maybe Tesla. But for the most part, we'll do levels for what we have here. We'll look at our moderators lineup, and then we'll fine-tune this list pretty nice this morning. Okay, love the pre-market on Facebook. We're looking at 198 this morning. High of the pre-market as much as 207.78. So that's good there. Going to the left here, we're going to find some levels that make sense. Look at that high of the pre-market, right? It's not a coincidence that thing's landing there. You got a lot of support on the daily in that area. Over here, we have also 212. So 212 is good there. And then we have up here 218 at 12. So you're set there. And then towards the bottom, 192.26. Your low of your pre-market is set there at 198. I think you're really good on Facebook. And Facebook has a good daily because look how clean these levels are. It's so easy to find too. You want a daily that has the levels very easy to find. If you have to do surgery or perform some kind of science action to get your level, something is wrong. That's not a good level. So just keep that in mind. 142.21 low of the pre-market. High of the pre-market, 147.03. So that's good there. Towards the top, another good level here, guys. A lot of touches on these levels. The more touches, the stronger that level is going to be. That 153.30. You have a couple of days here, opening and closing. They're not great, but you can mark it down. You can just put a little less weight on these 150. Might actually be a decent level because it's a whole dollar number as well. Right now, we're not heading in that direction, though. We're heading down into the south. We do have highs and lows for the last 2 trading days. Pretty much doing an amazing job for you there. If you want to have some area where you can possibly see some change in direction, some slowing down in price action, 140 seems to be an area where you can have some a little bit of support coming in there if we do drop below this 142. Guys, it's looking good right now, Qualcomm.
I cannot believe that you're suggesting my methods of throwing the pig knuckles to help determine levels or asking the magic 8 ball are not valid approaches.
I'm not saying it's not valid, but it's questionable. Questionable. uh, if you guys don't know, the 8 ball comes out around what 2 o'clock is when has it made an appearance before 2 p.m. the 8 ball, or is it just afternoon? Uh,
It's usually it's afternoon predictions, yeah. But I do have a multi-day prediction that we're working on right now that somebody asked, so we'll see how that turns out. But
cannot wait to see. PayPal, guys. PayPal is okay, but I think this has an opportunity to trade very well. Low of the pre-market 84.17. Just it's not looking great just yet. High of the pre-market 86.47. You're kind of stuck a little bit between this 86.44. That's a good level. You got a little bit of support towards the bottom. We got to see this break out of this. I think will be interesting. If it stays within this, it might not be as great. Volume is decent for now. AMD, same thing. I think we need some more out of AMD at the moment. We have it here just in case the SPY, the Qs get going. This will be a good one to watch. I don't think Apple will be that type of stock today because, again, they're waiting on earnings and it might just trade a little funky today. As you see already, that's not normal. 6.8 million shares traded for Apple and not moving on any crazy catalyst just yet. T-Dot, guys, low of the pre-market 30.68. High of the pre-market 35.96. That's looking good. They're down 40%, guys. Really, really good. Right now, this is down so much that right now, even in the pre-market, you do have a level in here that I'm going to mark down. It's going to be 31.87. Got a couple of 5-minute candles hitting that as support and resistance. So that's going to be good. I'm going to go to the left and just kind of see where do we have levels near this. Never, or just not in a very long time. 52-week low for sure. So that's going to be interesting. Can we get to our weekly? Let's see what we have here. Oh, we're going back 2017, 2018. Man, this is a shocker to them. 28.12, low of this range here, so that's good. And then over here, guys, we do have 26.12. Above this, look at this 35, right? This 35 is our pre-market. It's not a pre-market high. It's the 5-minute has a level around that 35.96, right? We have that. Look at the daily. That's confirming that as well. Here we have another level at 44. So I'm going to mark that there also 44.31 for right now. So some good levels there at the moment. We'll see how TDOC is going to play out today. Let's go back to the daily. And then last but not least, Apple, guys, huge volume right now. Earnings tonight. So I'm not sure how this is going to trade today. Will be interesting to see. More interesting is the earnings plays that you're going to be watching by Ed today. If it's Ed trading, right? At 4 today, or is he off? No, he's off tomorrow, I
actually,
believe, right?
yeah, and now that you mention it, I'm not sure. He is definitely in the room this morning.
Right,
What his
right.
plans are for this afternoon, I don't know because we'll be watching the room for him. But I'll find out. I'll ask him, see if I
Yeah.
can get an answer.
All right. So, guys, there's Apple. Just put the high and the low on Apple, and then you're set. Highs and lows of the last 2 trading days, creating an amazing job there. Guys, let's take a look at our moderators lineup. If you haven't done so already on YouTube, hit that thumbs up. It helps the channel a whole lot, and we appreciate it very, very much. For those that have done so already and given us 162, thank you. We appreciate it very much. Let's take a look at the moderators lineup here. I am going to go ahead and disable some of this stuff here and bring this here so it's not looking messy. Here we go. See what the moderators have on deck today. So here we go. Let's fine tune this a little bit more right in here. Okay, excellent. Let's go ahead and start with Mike. So Mike is watching Facebook, Qcom, and PayPal. Tiffany's looking at Facebook, TDOC, and Tesla. Peter's my PO's there that you can see on the screen. Dima is looking at Apple, Pins, Facebook, and Qcom. Brian with his list: Facebook, Tesla, TDOC, SU, and IDAI for fun. I believe that's a risky one. Low flow that's in play today. Susan, Baba, Baidu, CRM, JD, and secondary list Facebook and Qcom today. Brian is adding Qcom as well. Yeah, Qcom looks really good today compared to how they usually trade, right? Megan looking at Facebook, KO, and Apple, and then Jared with his list: Facebook, Qcom, PayPal, TDOC, AMD, and Apple. Those last 2 as a secondary. And Peter, I'll let you read out your list there.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be watching AMD, no surprise. Facebook and PayPal, Qualcomm, Ford, and Apple make up my secondary. So, a lot of the same things we're seeing across the other moderator lists.
Yep, absolutely, guys. With that said, guys, thank you so much for joining us over on YouTube. We are going to continue here in the chat room. So we are getting ready with our members. Brian and Andrew are up next trading live. So trade safe today, guys, and join us tonight for the mentorship at 8. I'll be covering for Thor. And then tomorrow, join us to end the week, guys, at 8:30. Me and Peter again are going to fire it up and get you guys through the market, the pre-market, and into the market open. Take care, guys. Stay safe, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Hey, trade safe, everybody. Have a good one.